Hello and welcome to the Off Your Beaten Path podcast. We are your hosts, Nicole
and George. We've always loved taking the back roads because adventure begins where the highway ends.
Join us each week as we explore new destinations and meet new people as we journey off your beaten path.
We hope to inspire you to ditch the highways and enjoy the byways in travel and in life.
Hey guys, this is Nicole.
And this is George, and you're listening to the Off Your Beaten Path podcast.
This season, we've tried to change up our format a little bit because we think we have pretty cool jobs, and we wanted to bring you people that we felt had cool jobs too.
Yeah, over the years in doing this, we've met some really, really cool people, and we've learned a lot from them. And we wanted to take this opportunity to share that with you guys.
So I couldn't think of a better person to start off with than our friend Jessie Snyder. She is owner and creator of Here and There Boutique, based out of Anchorage, Alaska. And we came about Jessie because for those of you who don't know, we own an electric bike rental shop here in Skagway, Alaska. And we opened just in time for the pandemic, which was really bad timing on our part. And so we had just put all of our savings into starting this business, and we had no tourists. What was going to be our greatest strength became our greatest weakness. And we weren't going to be making any money. And we thought, what in the world are we going to do to kind of be able to sustain ourselves and to live? And so I thought, well, we've got this beautiful retail space that's kind of empty and not being used right now. Maybe I could find some cool Alaskan artists that we could buy some of their merchandise and then sell it in the store. So I actually started off with two jewelry makers here in Alaska. And I bought just a few pieces of jewelry, and they were willing to work with me. I didn't have a lot of money, but they worked with me. And then as I sold the jewelry, I bought more, and then I bought more, and the store grew. So really, I say this, and I sincerely mean it, that Jessie is such a huge part of our success in our retail store, because had I not have met her online, had I not found her jewelry, our store would not be what it is now. And it's grown into a big, beautiful spot that people always tell us is their favorite store in town. So I think that that's why, for me, bringing Jessie on first made the most sense, because she does some really cool stuff. And so without further ado,
you're making me tear up.
We're going to introduce you to Jessie. So Jessie, why don't you tell us about Here and There, how you got started, what your business is based on, and what makes you unique?
Sure. I love that we definitely met during the COVID year to start, because it was a really hard year. I had 3 stores that year that I'd already pre-made jewelry for, and they all called like the day before to ship and said, don't mail it. So the timing for meeting you two was incredible, because I went with having all this jewelry from Skagway that I couldn't do anything with. All the stores were closed, cruise ships weren't going. And it was like, we connected, we became friends. And now it's been 3 years of us now trading sand and jewelry, and it's been amazing. So like, you really saved my butt during COVID too, because I don't know what I would have done with boxes of Skagway sand jewelry. It's one of those beautiful places that unless you've been there, you're probably not going to buy sand from. So that takes it back to what I do. So yep, my name is Jessie, and I travel Alaska with my family, my husband and my 2 kids. And we have paddled to glaciers, we have hiked to mountains, we have taken cruise ships to ports, literally to scoop sand. We collect sand, and then I make it into jewelry that you can keep as a keepsake from maybe your favorite glacier, or where you got proposed to on that beach, or married. Like it's incredible that the sand can hold all these memories for different people all over the world from Alaska, and that they can remember that really special moment with a piece of sand, a piece of jewelry. So that is what I do.
It's always one of those things that when people come into our store and they're looking, I always direct them to your jewelry, because I think it's really one of the most unique pieces that we have here, because it's like someone coming here and having a really good experience, or a positive, experience here, and they get to take a piece of it home with them. And I think that it's really special.
Yeah. And it's right front and center, right in the middle of the store when you walk in. And I think even too, when people come and ride our e-bikes and have a great time, it's just something that they want to remember. And this is a piece of Skagway that they can take home with them. And it really is awesome. And it's gone over super, super well.
And what a cool way to see Skagway and on bikes. I mean, obviously we bike, hike, we do it all to get to the sand. So it's super cool to be like in your store because you are like an active lifestyle store, which I really think is really cool to be in. So it's a wonderful partnership.
Yeah, we confuse people all the time because people always will walk by and they're like, I thought this was a bike shop, but all of our bikes are in the back of our shop. And so they'll walk by and they'll see that we have like all this stuff in the store. And then they're like, you don't sell bike things. You know what I mean? We're confusing people all throughout Skagway here.
It makes it fun.
But that's okay. But so I know that you started this business before you came to Alaska. So tell us how you started it, where you started it, what was the reasoning behind that?
Sure. Well, my husband's active duty military, he's in the Air Force. And so our first base, we were in Maryland. I had my son. Then our second base, we were stationed on Guam, which is halfway across the world. A tiny, beautiful, beautiful island, like changed our lives forever living there. But I had my daughter there and I was extremely depressed after I had her. The postpartum kicked in hard. Like, you're on this beautiful tropical island with a newborn and 2-year-old. I should have been loving it, but I was so sad. And like, I needed something to like get me out of my funk. I needed to create, not just the children. I needed to do something because I was feeling really lost after having the kids and not having family around. And my husband worked horrible shifts. He was on night shifts. So it's like, I just felt really alone. So I needed to get back to something that would like calm me down, let me think, and just get me away from the kids in the nicest way. So my husband one day, I remember clear as day. We were in the car. We're driving across the island and I'm just crying. I'm like, I need to do something. I'm going crazy. I think I'm going to sell Scentsy. And my husband's like, absolutely not. He's like, you have a degree in art. You studied photography. You have your business license, like your business degree. He's like, you can do something with this. So he took me to base and he bought me a camera. And he said, get back to what you love to do. Like, you always wanted to do this. And he's like, and then we enlisted in the military and things completely changed. And so I did. I bought a camera and we drove around the island together again as a family. And I photographed everything I saw because everywhere we went, if I went to like a gift shop, it was like pictures of snakes on postcards or Hawaiian girls on the postcards. And like, it didn't capture any little bit about the island. So I photographed the whole island and made it all into jewelry and bags and postcards. And I signed it Love from Guam. And so that is how I started back in 2000. How old is Molly? 2014. and then I took the photographs, made it into jewelry. And then I started getting sand to make it into jewelry. I started hand stamping and it just evolved now into this like collection of 150 different bottles of sand. You can see them behind me. But like, I literally just became obsessed with collecting sand and memories. And that's just how it spiraled to what it is now. But to know I started out with just, some photographs on bags and postcards to now, it's a huge change. Like, I did a massive change, but I still feel like, we do it as a family. And that's my favorite part, is that I can still be home during the day with the kids. I still find that joy of being a mother. But yet I have a whole nother side of me that's business and creative and art. And it's so great for me to have that balance because I don't know how I would do it otherwise.
I love that. It all makes sense now because I always think your pictures are so beautiful of your jewelry. And I had no idea you were a photographer.
Yeah, so no one does. Totally, it's so funny now. Yeah, it's so fun. It does, right? I went to school at the University of Iowa and I actually studied just art in general, like bookbinding, letterpress printing, silk screening, black and white photography, never color photography. And then they made you take your certificate in entrepreneurship. They said if you were going to be an artist, you'd represent yourself in the future. So they wanted you to have 20 hours of business plan, marketing, accounting. It was the most incredible way for me to get my degree. And I recommend to anyone that like is in an art field, if you're going to be selling your own art, your own creative side of you definitely need those business classes were so important. They're the foundation to getting the business going. And like, I'm really glad my college knew that because man, did it help me in the beginning. Like, really, really did.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. It's something that you wouldn't normally think of, but honestly, yeah, you are selling a piece of, what makes you an artist, and that makes you an entrepreneur. And that's just really kind of awesome.
It was amazing. Yeah, I had no idea. I remember being like, why do I have to take those? Ew, I just want to go draw. I want to like, I'm going to take a painting this semester, and then being like, you will need this. And like, I'm always like, I want to find my academic advisor and be like, thank you. I mean, that was like, what, 15 years ago?
So who was your advisor? Throw their name out there. Maybe they're listening.
I don't even remember.
You don't even remember?
Because I remember being so mad. I mean, like, I hate that she's making me do this. Like, it's so sad.
I love that so much.
I know.
And I feel like, so that kind of answers one of the questions we were going to ask you about, have you always been a crafty person? I mean, have you always been into the arts? Is that something that you've been doing since you were young?
Yeah, I knew right away. I was like, I'm going to school for art. I'm going to school for art. And my parents they never persuaded me not to do it. They were always like, okay. So I applied to all these colleges. Most had an art degree. And my parents drove me to all these schools. They sent me to Colorado for a week to see the Art Institute in Denver. They did like a summer program. My parents sent me there on the train by myself. They were like, you need to test this out. Do you like the area? And then when it came time to it, all like the little packets came in the mail with my approval or my denial letters. And my parents, this is the only good advice they gave. Because otherwise they were like, they gave all good advice, but this was the best. I had them all, and I'm like, I'm going to the Art Institute of Denver. I'm going to go study photography. I'm going to be this famous photographer. And my mom goes, that's a 2-year degree. But this one is a 4-year degree. And you get more bang for your buck that way. That one's expensive. And they just kept like going. And I was like, but I want to go to art school. And they're like, you still are. But I'm so glad I did. Like, I'm so glad like I listened to my parents. But I don't think I would have if they didn't 100% always support me. Like, I worked at a photo studio in high school. I worked at photo studios in college. I worked in the library doing book binding and book repair. Like, I've always been artsy. I knew I was going to go to school for art, and I did. But then after college, I completely dropped the ball on art because Hurricane Katrina hit, and I was like, oh, I have to go. And so I actually did like a whole shift, and I ended up working at American Red Cross and did disaster relief for years. And that's where I met my husband. So yeah, it was just ironic. It's just the timing. Like, I went from being like, I'm going to get my master's degree in bookbinding and photography to, holy cow, look at what just happened in the world. Like, I want to give back. And my dad went and volunteered for a cross. And when he came back, I left with a private group. And after that, I was hooked. I wanted to just do disaster relief until we got married and moved to Guam. I didn't pick art up again. So it's kind of weird that I had that like 5-year break where I was just this really into disaster relief and recovery.
Yeah. Wow. And you know what? Had you not done that, you wouldn't have met your husband.
I wouldn't have met Nick. So it's all timing. He was my volunteer. I had to fire him if he was going to date me.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. I love it.
To show that sometimes you just have to follow wherever the road leads you sometimes.
Yeah.
Off the beaten path to do disaster relief, then that's what it is. But yeah, I'm glad that it all kind of worked out, and
it all came back
where you're at now. Yeah,
like, it's crazy to think of what we did. It really is. It's really crazy to think of like what we've done and where we've lived, and what the military has like offered us in this life, being able to come to Alaska and meet you guys and live in Guam and start a business. And it's just been we've been very lucky, and it's just made our family stronger, being together and traveling like this and scooping our sand.
I love it. And now I think I saw on a post recently that you said that your nickname was Messy Jessie. Is that? Oh, yeah. How did that come about?
Again, it goes back to the artistic background, painting, messy. Just I'm still messy. I'm clumsy and drop resin on myself half the time. Like, I have to literally wear like a certain set of overalls and an apron, or else I'll be just covered. My office is covered in sand. Like, Nick will come in and vacuum for me because he's like, Jess, seriously, like, you're just stepping in like a sandbox. And I'm like, I know, it's so fun.
Well, so I gotta tell you, our listeners aren't going to be able to see this, but I can see the background in your office, and it is very organized. So I would never want to call you Messy Jessie. If you saw the desk that I'm sitting at right now, you would be like, dear Lord.
That's what's so funny. My friends sitting at me now are like, you're so OCD. Like, everything has to have its place. I'm like, I know, but don't look at the floor.
So the surface areas are clean, but the floor maybe not so much.
No, Nick will be like, I just found one of your charms on the floor. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need that. Like, I don't know. It's just my office is very clean. You're right. Like, everything's labeled and organized. That side of my brain says organized. Now, if you look at my floor, or my cleaning, or my fridge, you might be surprised.
Yeah.
But Nick said if I could organize the house into boxes, I would. He's like, if you could put the couch in a box, you would. Like, I'm really obsessed with like, maybe that's why I put sand in charms. Like, I really like this.
Yeah. Putting things.
I'm seeing a trend here.
I like that.
Yeah, so I'm a cleaner version of messy.
And then with that resin, it's going to stay in there for an eternity. So
yeah, it's going to stay. It's not moving.
Yeah. So and the listeners, like you said, cannot see this, but your sand collection. So how many different places of sand do you have? Like how many different sand areas or like different jars
easily
of sand
over 100.
Really?
Easily over 100. I have everything from like the Maldives to the New Zealand. I have Cabo. I'm trying to think of like the more exotic ones. Scotland, star sand from Japan. Like I have some crazy sand, and only the stuff in my office is what I use day to day, which is probably maybe 70 different jars, and the rest I keep hidden in another closet because I've broken many a bookshelf with my sand. I had to start putting them in jars that I label the top and the bottom and hide them in closets everywhere in my house because I have broken at least 2 bookshelves.
Oh my gosh.
Because they weigh a lot, but I love them. And I don't want to ever get rid of them.
Well, and for those who don't know, or maybe if you remember from our trip that George and I took to Ireland, I had posted pictures throughout our trip of me with bags of sand. That's because I collected sand to send back to Jessie when we got back from Ireland. So she would have sand from Ireland as well. So,
and I sell a lot of it. It's pretty incredible. Everyone loves the Ring of Kerry sand. That's probably my top seller on the website. It's definitely Juno, and then the Ring of Kerry sand. And lately Iceland's been really popular too, but very seasonal. It's the winter months of the Northern Lights. But it's funny how the sand kind of ebb and flows of what's popular and what's not.
Yeah.
But the Ireland one is really popular. And that's what's fun too, is I get to meet so many people that are like, can I mail you sand? And I'm like, sure. I would love that. So I have sand from like all over the world that I didn't go to personally.
Yeah.
That they send it to me. And it's funny when it does arrive because I'll get bags, like gallon Ziploc bags of sand, and I don't need that much. So I end up like using it in my pottery, my plants, or I like filled a hole in the garden last year with some sand from Africa. But like I'll end up I'm pretty sure I'm introducing like rare species like Jurassic Park or something. But I don't know what to do with all the extras because I only keep like maybe 2 cups worth. So it's really funny when I get sand. And I have some really funny stories about the sand I have received in the mail. But I love doing trades like that and meeting people that travel and have like the love of travel like I do and want to scoop it legally. Legally.
Yes, exactly. I feel like everywhere we went, we were like, okay, where can we dig sand from? Where can we get some sand from? But George, you want to tell them about our bag that we sent her from Skagway?
Oh, the one that we took from out down by the river?
Yeah.
Yeah, you may or may not have gotten sand that was encased in a dog poop bag.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we didn't have any bags with us. We didn't have any
regular bags with us. And we're like, oh, crap, we need sand for Jessie. And we just happened to have a dog poop bag.
I love it. I think that's wonderful. I've had water bottles, dog poop bags. I'm trying to think of some of them other things. Oh, medicine jars. A lot of people
that's a good one.
Or like Excedrin containers. And I'll be like, why is someone mail me Excedrin?
But that's really actually pretty smart. I like that. Mm-hmm. I might have to put that in the banks.
It's a smart one. My cousin did that. She's a pharmacist. So she kept all because they recycle the jars, I guess.
Yeah.
So she kept something like that. She like hid them all. She was so scared she's going to get arrested for having sand. And I am scared of that too. I'm always scared I'm going to get stuck at customs or the border and they're going to be like, you're under arrest. You took a cup of sand. I'm always scared that I'm going to get arrested.
I know. Whenever we travel, we're like, okay, what are we going to get pulled aside for? Is it going to be like, cause I'll usually travel with my parents' ashes too. So I can spread them when I'm out.
Yeah.
So I have like that in my bag. We usually collect rocks while we're traveling. Then I had bags of sand for you. So I was like, you never know what we're going to get pulled aside for when we go through customs.
You never know.
We used to have all these random rocks and then we had no idea where they were from. But then we learned to just write on the rock with a magic marker. So we knew where it was from, and then we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I keep a magic marker and glass jars in my purse.
Yeah, like you got to just keep it all the time. Otherwise, A lot of sand looks alike, so you just got to make sure that you get the right one.
Molly, this summer, I think we were in Iceland and I forgot my jar. Because when we went to Iceland, we did 2 weeks there, and I had so many jars, and I was running out of jars. It's so my daughter, this is what she normally does anyways on hikes. She puts all the sand in my pockets. She'd be like, "Mommy, I put the sand in your pocket. On your right hand side is this beach." And so my pockets, when we left Iceland, were so dirty from all the sand that she'd shove in my pockets, and then we'd get back to the RV, and I'd put them in the jar and label them. But I had so many pockets full of sand. That's how it does it now. She'll just come over and be like, "Mommy, here you go," and it's like wet sand or mud, or it's so funny. But they've gotten really good at helping me. They know, like, I like the dry sand. I don't want the wet sand. I don't want gravel, because some people have mailed me gravel, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with rocks. I can't crush those.
You know, the post office has got to be like, what in the world is going on here?
Oh yeah, I get some weird mail, like some weird heavy mail.
Gotta love those flat rate priority boxes.
Thank goodness for those flat rate boxes, right?
I think they do too. Yeah, only a few of them have ever exploded too. I had one that exploded, and there was just sand. My letter carrier came to the door, and it was just like the big bin, right? And it's just like sand at the bottom. She's like, "You can guess what this one is," and I'm like, "Oh no!" Like, I wonder where it's from. I'm like dust panning it, trying to like get it all. You can't lose any bit of it.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, I love that. So what would you say out of all of the stuff that you make is your most popular item? Do you have something that stands out the most, or?
That depends on the time of year. Right now, it's definitely the Northern Lights, because I mean, seriously, you can only go so many places in the world to see that. So any of the same with the Opal Flex right now is like the big thing that I'm just constantly making is Northern Light pieces, which I think is so cool that people come here just to see that. And then the Christmas ornaments, those are really popular ones. That's probably November, those will kick off too. In the summer, it's definitely a mix. Keychains for Father's Day. Mostly earrings. I sell a lot more earrings than I do necklaces, I think. But it's definitely seasonal, depending on the season, what I sell the most of. But ornaments in person, for sure, they always just go so fast.
Yeah. And, it's so weird, because I thought that, working in retail here before we opened our store, I was like, oh my gosh, like Christmas ornaments. People always ask for like Alaska made Christmas ornaments, but I don't know what it is. Like, we haven't had very much luck selling ornaments in our shop here. And I don't know what it is.
It just depends on your store. And that's what I find for like a lot of the stores. Cause I think I did the account the other day, and it was like over 40 stores between Alaska, Guam, and New York. And they each have such unique different orders for their area. Like, I don't feel like everyone always buys the same thing, which makes it fun for me. But yeah, I have some stores that just never sell ornaments, and some that just, they sell them in a week. So it really is area specific, I think. And probably in the winter, you have people that live there year round. So why would they buy an ornament?
Yeah.
But if you had like winter foot traffic, I bet you would. So I find
that's
that it
very
really
true.
Changes on where you're at. Like,
yes. I find that like, I'm always shocked at how fast your bookmarks sell. Like, whenever I get bookmarks, like, it's like
only you. Like, the other stores are like, oh yeah, we would probably want to do more bookmarks. And I'm like, that's funny, because I sell them online really well, and I sell them to you really well. So it's just
like anytime I get them, like within like a couple days, they're all gone. I'm like, well, clearly I didn't buy enough of those.
It's pretty funny. Like, you're really good at pushing those. I don't know what it is, but definitely each store is just so unique in how you sell it, how you market it. And you're such an active store. It makes sense that your shoppers would be like, I'm going to take a bike ride and read a book by a tree. Like, I get it.
Yep.
Those are my people.
What would you say with I know that you've done like a lot of collaborations with other artists in Alaska. That's one thing that I see you posting about all the time. Can you tell us about some of the artists that you've collaborated with and some of the things that you've done, and how did those projects come about?
Oh, sure. Well, if there's one thing I really know about myself, is I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses. And so sometimes I pull from my weaknesses of things like, I really want to make this, but I know I can't, but I know that girl can. Let's do it together. And I really enjoy that part, like that sisterhood with my girl makers, to be like, okay, I have this vision, but I know I can't get it out. Like, help me get it out. And so I've worked with Tiny Bird. She does all of the mountains. She hand draws them. I've only drawn one of them, and I thought it was terrible. And I drew the Juneau one, and she is still like, Jessie, please let me redo it. But So we collaborate on that. Like she draws all the mountains, and then I have them made into hand stamps so I can stamp them. And then so that one's worked out great for years. And a lot of like the puffins, I've had her draw for me, but they're all just, I know they're there, and I know that that's her strength. So if I can like work with her and we get it done, it's so fun. I work with Namaste in AK. Emily, she does sewing of the eye pillow bags for travel. Like I really want it to be more of a boutique feel and have travel items too. And then I work with Rooted Lupine. She does some artwork for me too. She does beautiful hand lettering. So any of the Alaska, the Wild, the Guam, that's her real handwriting that I make into stamps. And I'm just like, how is your handwriting so beautiful? Again, messy Jessie handwriting, you can't read, but hers is gorgeous. So, and I know I can't do that. So she does all the lettering for me. I'm trying to look around my office. Oh, I love doing bundles from Alaska makers because I find that like 85% of the people that find my business on Etsy are from out of state. And so I'm a number person. So I like that. I like knowing that. And so I found that like they weren't maybe getting the same hits on their own, but together I can pull in like 3 different artists and we can make this cool bundle. And they're like, oh, we loved this headband. I'm going to find her again. That's AK Happy. Oh, I love this bag. Oh, that's Ashley Bennett. I'm going to go to her website. So I like that I can like people that are already looking for Alaska made items. Maybe they don't know what they wanted to find, but if they come into the bundle, they can be like, oh, I love that. And I always include their links so they can find them later or just get the bundle. But I love being able to have that sisterhood with the girls in Anchorage and Fairbanks. North Pole, I'm doing a bracelet project with right now. So it's just fun to be like, what do you make? Let's do it together. Like, I love it. I love it so much.
I feel like there are so many very talented people here in Alaska. Like I'm always like, oh my gosh, when I'm coming across looking for different makers. And I love being able to like reach out to you and be like, hey, who do you like? Tell me so I can look to see if they would be a good fit for our store too, because that helps us as well. I mean, I think that, you probably do like lots of markets, I would imagine. And so you meet a lot of these people in person. And for me, people don't realize it, but Alaska is so big and you're huge. So far from us. Literally if we drove to you, it's 18 hours. So
yeah, it's
like
ridiculous.
Being able to like reach out to you and ask for like help in locating makers is such a huge help for us as well.
Yeah. And it's fun. I'm really glad we live in this age where we do help each other like that. I don't feel like it's always been that way in the crafting, maker, creative area, but I really found this group of women here, and then we all are really good about sharing info. We have a makers mingle that we try to do every year. And it started with just meeting in a friend's house, and like a bunch of makers would get together and we would just share tips on wholesaling, what stores we like to work with, how do you get into those stores, email lists, photography, like taxes. We found that like we were all trying to do it on our own when really the person next to us had all that information. And so it was so great to like come together and we would just talk for hours. And so we finally made it an official makers mingle. There's actually an Instagram group for it. I can share it with you. And we get together at least once a year and we just literally talk about everything. We usually have a couple presenters and we just share all that info that we were just withholding. And now it's like, let's just share it. Like it's fun. And so we get to talk to each other. And that's where I find a lot of my collaborations too with those women are from meeting them and getting together.
Yeah. Do you, for the Makers Mingle, do you ever have any like retailers that are there, like people like me that would come and be part of that conversation?
We've definitely talked about that. We would love to have a retailer perspective of it, of like, how do you want things packaged? How do you like things priced? How do you like to be invoiced? Like, because we do talk about wholesale a lot. It's probably the hottest topic we talk about is wholesaling. How do you do it? How do you still make money from it? Like there's a lot that goes into wholesaling. So yeah, we've talked about, we definitely want a tax person to come, which we found another maker that her degree was in taxes or something. So I was like, you must come join us. Right. But yeah, we've always been looking for someone in the retail that would want to like share their input from the other side. We would love that. Actually, you'd be good at that.
Yeah. So you should let me know when next time you guys are ready to meet, let me know. I'm going to write that down. It gives me a chance to come to Anchorage on vacation.
Done.
So
George, you can come too, George.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be there. So you're obviously a pretty busy person. You're a mom and a wife and a business owner. and you're very organized. And what does a typical day look like for you? Like, do you work like a normal 8 to 5, or you kind of do a little bit work throughout the day?
I try to keep it as businessly possible. So after I drop the kids off, I try to go on a walk to clear my head. And then, I come straight into my office. I lay out all the sand, all the charms, all the bezels, fill them all. It takes days to do, it takes days to lay them all out, lay all the sand. And so I work on doing that every day, respond to emails, have lunch, respond to more emails, pour more sand. I'll spend the day in my office till I have to get the kids at 3:30. And I try to do that Monday through Friday. Okay. Now my husband works a bit of a weird schedule. He's on 48-hour shifts. So on nights that he's at work and I'm behind, I'm sneaky. I come in my office and I work all night. It's a horrible habit, but when he's home, I want to hang with him, like go on walks, go on a hike, maybe find some more sand. So, because he works such weird shifts, so I never know if he's home all weekend or he's home during the week. So I try to keep it really flexible, and I feel like it's really great that I can have some flexibility with my schedule, so I can go to the kids' events after school. I can volunteer if I want to. I'm not the best at volunteering, but I try. I do like the run club, and if they have any food in the classroom, I totally volunteer for those days. I don't like to get too much in their business because the kids are pretty independent when it comes to school. They love their time at school. But I like having this flexibility. But I try to keep a normal Monday through Friday so that I can keep plugging through. It definitely is a full-time job. I think a lot of my family thinks it's a hobby, and it started out that way for sure. Nap time artist, I worked in the dark hours when they were asleep, and then the nap time hours, and that's pretty much it when I first started. And then slowly it's definitely a full-time job. My husband jokes and says I work more hours than him, and I think he's right sometimes.
Well, and I think as a business owner, that's just, because you're doing all the things. It's not like you said, you're answering all the emails, you're creating all the jewelry, you're collecting the sand, you're making the connections. It's never ending.
It's a lot. And I give kudos to all the families that do this. Like anyone that has their own business, like be kind to them. It is a lot of work.
It is.
And even when you're sleeping at night, I'm like thinking, like, did I put that sand out? Did I do that? Did I do this? Like, it's like, it takes a while to be like, calm down, go to bed. Like,
yes. Oh yeah. Well, I told George the other night, I woke up and I said, oh my gosh, I just had a vision for this wall in the shop and I need this piece of furniture because I want to change this all. So then it was like last week we were like looking for that piece of furniture and ordering it. And you know what I mean? But yes, it's like I had a dream and it was like, yep, that's what I need to do. This is what something that's been in my head for a year now. And now it's time to start working on that, because things are slowing down. And so now I can start focusing on those types of things. So
I love those moments.
I know whenever Nicole walks up to me and says, so I was thinking
you're
I
in
should
for a project.
Really be nervous about that.
They both know. My son too, whenever I'm like, so he's like, oh gosh, what's coming?
What is she doing? That's the way it goes though. You get those creative ideas and you're like, I must make it now.
Yes. I did wisen up though, because in my brain, I kept thinking, okay, in the winter, I'll work on that. In the winter, that's going to be a winter project. So I started to keep a notebook of like ideas that I'm like, okay, now when the winter comes, I won't be like, what was it that we were supposed to work on? Because
and Alaska's great so for that. Because like for you, your summer is like, bam.
Yeah.
And then your winter, you can kind of be like, I can, make all these dreams come true and get creative. I always like that January, February time for me. I'm always like, okay, I'm done with the rush of Christmas. I can now focus on like all those creative things I put off. Like January and February are like golden to me. Like you're coming down from that Christmas craziness and you can just get real creative. I love January, February. It's my favorite time.
January, February is our travel time. So that's definitely my favorite time of year.
Funny. And that's the best part too, having your own business. If like Nick wants to go on vacation, I'm like, let's do it. Let's go. Like, I don't feel constrained. That's a very important part of being an entrepreneur, is taking your vacation, like actually stepping away and being like, this is overwhelming. I need a break. Like it has to happen. Like I just closed the website down because I'm going to a wedding in California and I didn't want the stress leading up to it. So I was like, we're just going to close because that way I'm not worried about it when I'm gone. And that's just, you have to do it. So, and I think it's great that we actually take that time and get some rejuvenation back into it.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's boring.
Exactly.
It's
You can't
tedious.
just be all work. So with that being said, what would you say is the most important lesson that you've learned as a business owner?
Oh, I definitely think it's going at your own pace. Sometimes I meet a lot of the women at the Maker Mingles and they're like, why aren't I in those stores? Why isn't it selling? Why isn't it? And it's a slow process. Like it doesn't come overnight. It's a learning curve. I always recommend when people say they want to start a website and they throw everything on, I'm like, start with like 5 things on your website. See how they go. Rephotograph if you need to. Work on your shipping costs. Like start small. And I'm really glad I was able to start small and let it naturally grow to what it is today. Because I think that growing part is so important. Like you really figure out your brand, you figure out your limitations, what you do like to make, what you don't like to make. But I feel like sometimes these new artists, Instagram can be so deceiving and you think that they're huge, they're selling all this jewelry, but really maybe they had one a month. And I think you have to start slow and at your pace and you're going to do great that way. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really great advice because I think sometimes one of the best pieces of advice that someone gave me when we were talking about doing more video or doing this podcast was don't wait till you're perfect. You know what I mean? Like you're never going to be perfect. You just need to start and you'll get better as you go.
And it will grow.
All part of the process.
It'll grow and it will change. It will morph. It has changed so much in the past. What did I say? I started in 2014. It has changed so much in those 7 years. Like it is not where it was in the beginning to where it is now. And I'm sure it'll change again. And I probably will have those days where I'm like, oh, nope, I'm back to maybe 2 stores. You know, like it's going to ebb and flow. And I have to go at my pace and not what social media says the pace I should be at. Like,
yes. And that's the hard thing because social media is that's a whole nother part of being a business owner.
It is. And I really struggle with like, you just can't believe everything you see on there.
Yes.
Just stay true to yourself and go at your pace. Like, go ahead, George. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that just really kind of leads into the next question. It's like, we all kind of run into things that we didn't expect when we were running a business. Like, well, where did that come from? Or where did that curveball come from? Like, what is the most unexpected thing that's happened to you? And like, what did you do
Taxes.
to like kind of overcome it?
Taxes. Yes.
Taxes. Yeah. That's another thing we talk about at our mingle a lot too is start QuickBooks early so you can see your growth, you can see where you're spending, you can see where you're making money, and it tells you right there on the top, these are your quarterly taxes. This is what you should put, but start that soon. I didn't realize that till a lot later. Like I'd always kept good record books, but I didn't know about quarterly taxes. And man, did that hurt when I first got dinged for that one. So now I'm really OCD about my taxes. But that was my first big curveball when the business grew to something more to be like, oh, this is something I really need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
That one for sure. My other one is definitely like customers. Like people will come to you and be like, I like it, but I like it like this, or I don't like it, or did you make this, or this was, I found you made this off Etsy. Like people, like the negative criticism you sometimes get, or it feels negative, you know.
Yeah.
Those were hard to, those are hard because it is you. You're putting yourself out there in your art. It's a part of you. You just made, you design, you're selling it to the world, even though you could keep it to yourself. And sometimes that's really hard, to hear some of the reviews or, oh, I saw this on Etsy. I make those too, just like that. Where'd you buy them? Like some of those copycat feeling. It hurts sometimes, but I have found, again, if I just stay true to myself and know that this is me, like what I make is what I made, and you don't have to love it. Just like I can go to any other store and be like, well, I don't really like that. I don't have to be mean about it, but that's your freedom to like it or not. And I think we take it so personally, like we made it, everyone should like it, right? Everyone should like it. But
exactly.
Getting over that.
And I think that's an interesting point too, because you being a photographer, I think that as someone who does photography, I feel like, photography is everybody's interpretation. Like what you like may not be what I like. And that's what I think is so nice about the art form, is that it doesn't have to be what everybody likes, you know, it is, and you have to stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where that growth comes from. And I think that's really
you are going
important.
to have a negative review. Someone is not going to like what you made.
Yeah.
That is okay. You don't go to a restaurant and like every meal you've had there either.
Exactly.
It is just part of business. And sometimes that's super hard to swallow. I'm like, oh, that's just part of business.
Yeah.
But it is. And you can grow from a lot of those experiences too.
Yep.
You know, like if they didn't, the box you put it in broke or the earrings broke, you know what I'm saying? Like little things like that, you could change them. Like, oh, you're right. Maybe I should box those in a little stronger box. Like there's things like that that you can actually grow from. So it's not just brushing off the review right away, but like, what can you learn from it?
Yeah, exactly. I like that. I think that's really good advice.
Those are my two: taxes and criticism.
Taxes, man, taxes.
Get you.
That's like the worst.
It's so hard.
It is. I keep saying, like, I'm like, okay, George, how much are we gonna have to pay in taxes? Like, so I can wrap my head around it.
Right up on you.
Exactly. So I mean, of course, people can find your Skagway sand jewelry in our store, Klondike Gift Supply. But where else can they find your jewelry, whether online or in stores? Like you said, you're in a lot of different stores, so you may not be able to name all of them. But
I cannot. There's a lot. The best place to start is always my website at travelingboutique.com. There's drop-down menus for all the sand. And a lot of the sand I don't have. People just message me and be like, I know you have sand from here. And I'll be like, you're right, I do. So I do a lot of those custom orders like that of sand I have. I just don't put online. But definitely start on the website. I usually have a list of all the stores on the website. I've heard that it's not up right now. So I need to put that back up because a lot of the stores close, you know, in the winter months.
Sure.
So I'm always trying to make that list be reflective of who's actually open during the season. So that needs to get updated. But otherwise, the website's the best place to start to see where the sand is. Because there's 40 locations total, and they're again all very seasonal. So
that's awesome. I mean, that's a lot of work. I don't know how you find time to sleep and be a mom if you're making jewelry for all those places.
I am very, very lucky that the stores I do work with have become friends and that they realize that it will be like summer. I will be a month behind. My kids are home from school. I'm going to travel and scoop sand. So I'm very lucky that I get to work with stores that understand that it's just me in this little office and that each one takes time and I want to take my time on each one. If it's rushed, no one's gonna like that. I'm not gonna have fun if it's rush. They're not gonna like the product, and they all wait, which I think is really nice. That the stores I work with wait for me. They could just move on and find someone else. So I feel very lucky that I have such good relationships with my friends, and I think we built a lot of that during COVID. I didn't take payment for many of my stores, for some of them up to 6 months while they got back on their feet. And I think that was really important in that time to see which stores stuck with me. And we found ways to make it work, which I traded product with some of the stores. Like it was a great way to see who was going to get creative, make it through. And it was a really good time to get to know my stores a lot better too during those COVID years because everyone struggled.
Yeah. I tell everyone that for all the bad that happened during COVID, there's so many blessings. Like I said, my gift shop is my COVID baby. It came out of COVID. It wouldn't be in existence like it is now had COVID not happened because I would have been focused only on the bike shop.
Because it literally, I mean, you saved my butt. I had that huge box and I mean, you were literally like a week later, hey, and I was like, you can just take it. Oh my God, it was crazy. But yeah, it was just these relationships are meant to happen. Like, George said earlier, it comes around, like it will come back around. And that's how it just goes in life and in business.
That is very true.
So you've done a really good job of like staying connected with the people who like buy your jewelry in the other stores. How can people reach out to you and connect with you like online in like the digital world? Like how have you developed those relationships and like how do you communicate with folks via that platform?
Sure. Instagram seems to be the way people like to communicate. Instagram and Facebook, I get the most messages through there. But I am not tech savvy. So I instantly will be like, hey, thanks for reaching out. Email me. So if you do reach out to me, I will probably respond by, here's my email address. Let's chat. I'm so much faster on email because I am not one of those people that can be on my phone typing. It's just too small, too much work. I don't know. I like to sit down and email. I'm like, I swear, if I was like 200 years ago, I'd still be like snail mailing it, quill and paper. I just love having to like write real emails. So
yes.
If you can email me, that's the best way. And if a store reaches out to me, I want to know about your store. I don't like when they just say, hey, can we wholesale your jewelry? I'm like, no, let's talk. Who are you? Hey, I'm Jessie. Like, I like to find out who I'm going to work with because I'm hoping to make a lasting friendship with that person too. So
now it makes total sense why you and I get along so well, because I am the sit down at the computer, do everything too. George does everything on his phone and it makes me crazy. I'm like, how can you do that? Like, it's so little.
I can't do it.
It also gets on to me because I have 15,832 unread emails in my inbox.
That makes me crazy.
You have to sit down and you have to type it out and you have to delete the spam and
delete the emails.
Why would I do that when I could just hit the search bar and still find it?
Heck no, I don't even know how to do that.
I know. It makes me so crazy. We have while we were in Europe, I think he must have put his email on my phone. So I get his email on my phone too. And sometimes I just go on there and delete stuff just because I can.
You can. Take that, George. Take that.
It's like getting rid of your husband's old beat up shirt that they love and they want to keep wearing. You just it slowly disappears.
I might need that 10-year-old Home Depot coupon.
Oh, yes. You're going to try and reclaim that later. Yeah. Good luck.
I can rationalize my way out of that.
Yeah, he can try it.
He can rationalize. I like it.
Oh my goodness. Well, so we decided that when we were going to do this season that we were going to ask 2 questions to all of our guests that were related to like our life. And the first one we're going to ask is, what's your favorite travel destination? You love to travel, so this should be an easy one for you. So what's your favorite?
Iceland. Oh, God, this is so hard. Oh, okay. So if I think of like the most recent one, family wise, the Iceland trip was just insane. Like we did the whole ring road and just being able to go to those public swimming pools every night to bathe. It was like snowing, raining, whatever. And we're in these like pools swimming. It's hot and we're like sweating. It was the people were incredibly nice. The food was amazing. Like Iceland was so cool. A little scary. It is fire and ice, man. Like those waves are no joke. And like the sulfur and the smoke, like it was super cool. My other favorite place that more like an adult place for like Nick and I, when we went to Yap. It was about a 2-hour plane ride, I want to say, from Guam. And we went for a biology summer camp. So the kids were in camp all week and we went diving in this pristine, like reefs and caverns. We swam with sharks, like just the coolest experience ever. And it was so cool because like we were learning about the ocean while our kids were also in the summer camp, like lowering cameras into the ocean to test like the, what was it, shark? And then scooping planktons. Like it was just this crazy cool summer camp for them. And so there were kids everywhere, adults talking, and we learned a lot about the ocean and like coral bleaching, clam bleaching, because that's what they really wanted to encourage. And it really changed our life into like, what are we doing day to day that involves plastic and like non-reusable? So it really like was eye-opening to us as a family to be like, what can we change in our house? And what can I change in the business to make, the oceans not be full of plastic? So that trip definitely had the most impact on us, for Nick and I to think about. I don't know if the kids really remember it, but that Gap trip, and it's really, it's not as westernized. So like you couldn't just rent a car and drive to other parts of the island. We would walk and carry this certain leaf with us to show we came in, that we're friendly, we're coming in peace to go through the village. Like it was. They still had men's lodges. It was so cool. And they used stone money for transactions of houses. And it was fascinating. So, I mean, if you could research any little island, research Yap. That place was so cool. And the diving was incredible. But that definitely has been the most life-changing for us traveling together. Awesome. And then Iceland was just beautiful. Everyone just loved Iceland.
Well, and it's so funny because you had asked me if we had ever been to Iceland, and like within like 3 month period, I think we had like 3 or 4 people ask us, have you been to Iceland? Because we're thinking about going, and people just assume that we've been there. And I'm like, we have not been there. It's
I cannot believe it.
We will get there eventually.
You have to go. Like, it was so cool. It was the coolest place. I was blown away by how much of geothermal and solar, like, they're off the grid. Like, it is so cool that they use all those resources. Like, I'm blown away. What a green country.
Yep. So that is on our list for sure.
Okay.
So the other question that we're going to ask, because one of the things that through our podcast, that at the end of all the podcasts, we tell people, if you've enjoyed the podcast and you want to support us on our travels, buy us a dessert, because we love to eat desserts. So we have a website that people can go and donate money to us so that we can go buy a dessert. So what is your favorite dessert?
Oh, that's so hard. I love food. Oh, this is hard. Well, if I had to say in Anchorage, I'm really in love with the macaroons from Sweet Caribou.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm a sucker for those.
That's
I think
good to know. We'll have to try those.
And I can eat them like whenever I want. Of another dessert. Oh, I love wild scoops, of course. I love ice cream, but I love all food. You can't ask me that. That's too hard of a question. I can pick travel destinations all day, but food, oh God, I love it all.
see, for me, I'm a super picky eater. Like I'm the worst. So, but everything. Desserts to me are like the best. So that's why I'm like, what is good the dessert? Like desserts, that to me, man.
Your dessert pictures are legit. I drool over your dessert picture. That's too hard of a question for me. That should have been a simple one. And I'm like, I love food.
All right. Well, that's fair. Well, now at least we know we need to try macarons when we get to Anchorage. We did eat at Wild Scoops when we were there. Delicious.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, it was
good. It is. They have an ice cream club that you can do too. So one year I gifted it for Christmas, and you get 2 pints of their experimental flavors.
Wow.
Like each month. Oh, some of them were like
that would be fun. See, we don't have anything like that here in Skagway. We're so small. Like this winter, I think there's only going to be like 1 restaurant open all winter. So we're all kind of like, what are we going to do?
See, we need to reverse this and us question you from an outsider perspective of Skagway. I should interview you next time.
Well, let's do it.
We want to learn about Skagway. That's crazy. 1 restaurant.
Yes, it's kind of a crazy place here. So, but we love it. It's a small community, but living this lifestyle affords us the chance to be able to go and travel in the winter, which is what we love to do. But at this point, we want to thank you so much for coming on here and chatting with us. And we're so excited that you're going to be our debut person for our new season, because you're so awesome. And so we want to just remind people, we want to thank you for getting off your beaten path with us. We want to remind you to ditch the highways and enjoy the byways and travel and in life. Thank you guys. See you next week.
Thank you.